The next speaker in this security and privacy session is Mohammad Khodaei, his presentation is Secure and Privacy-Preserving Vehicular Communication Systems, Identity and Credential Management Infrastructure.
So thank you very much for introducing me. My name is Mohammad Khodaei, and I'm a PhD student at Communication Network here at KTH. So I'm doing research in the area of security and privacy for vehicular communication system, and my focus is on identity and credential management infrastructure. And if I want to just briefly explain what it's about how to ensure communication security while at the same time protecting user privacy. So the main idea in vehicular communication system is that vehicles are communicating with each other and they exchange information like location, velocity, direction, and so on. So vehicles actually can directly communicate with each other using V2V, vehicle-to-vehicle communication, or they can exchange messages with the roadside infrastructure using V2I, vehicle-to-infrastructure communications. And they beacon, CAM, and DEN, cooperative awareness messages, and decentralized environmental notification messages frequently. So these information actually carry like some information about the condition on the road or the hazard on the road. For example, if the road is slippery or if there is an accident on the road, other vehicles actually are informed about this. So leveraging all of this information, we can build some applications about safety, efficiency, and also infotainment. So let's take some examples. So the first application that actually we expect to see is collision avoidance, how to inform other vehicles, how to inform drivers when they are about to hit each other while they can't see each other. We can see here on the picture above that, for example, there is an accident, and this actually incident can be disseminated. This information can be disseminated throughout the entire road, and other vehicles actually can react accordingly. In the figure below, we can see that there is a traffic server actually collecting some information about congestion on the road. And by optimizing these information, it can just inform other vehicles to choose their proper path. Another example is, for example, if an ambulance actually is approaching. So the ambulance actually can notify other vehicles to just pull over, so it can make its way through the heavy congestion, for example. But we are talking about network distributed systems, and within such a system, of course, security and privacy are important. So again, let's take some examples. So in the picture above that, we see that there is an, let's say, attacker that actually falsely disseminates some information about an accident on a road, while actually there is no accident. So the other vehicle actually would react accordingly, and it could cause an accident, for example. Or if someone actually takes control of the braking system, as we heard also in the news that attackers actually took also the control of the braking system of Tesla when it was moving. In the picture below, we see that, again, the example of traffic information server, that one can actually falsely claim that there is a congestion on the road, while actually there is no. So the entire system actually could get fooled, and it can actually inform other vehicles that don't choose this path, since it's congested. So it can actually enjoy driving in an empty path. What about impersonating actually an ambulance? So someone can just falsely claim that an ambulance is approaching, so all the vehicle actually would pull over, and it can just find its way to its destination and can reach there faster. So far I have been talking about security, safety, and efficiency. And what about privacy? Privacy is also another important issue that, as I mentioned earlier, vehicles actually are disseminating the information about their whereabouts. And by collecting this information, one can actually reconstruct and reconstruct the vehicle's trajectory, and can actually link the vehicles. So for example, here we see that one vehicle actually is here at location XYZ, for example, and at time T. And then we see the same vehicle actually at the gas station. And again, we see the same vehicle here in the parking lot. And we can actually link the vehicle actually through its trajectory. So I hope actually so far I have convinced you that deploying such a large-scale vehicular communication system cannot really materialize unless we take security and privacy into account. So security and privacy for vehicular communication system actually is happening with the help of a special purpose vehicular public infrastructure. So there is a fully trustworthy entity that we call it certification authority. And this entity is responsible for registering the vehicles and issuing some anonymous and short-lived credentials. So we call these anonymous short-lived credentials as pseudonyms. So each vehicle actually interacts with this fully trustworthy CA and receives a bunch of those pseudonyms. So the pseudonyms are anonymized, and it can switch one after another to protect its privacy. So this is how actually the vehicles actually look like. So the first vehicle actually comes, it uses its first pseudonym, it changes its pseudonym one after another, so it's not really linkable that it's the same vehicle. The next vehicle comes, it changes its pseudonyms, the next one, and it changes its pseudonym frequently. So this is the big picture of what we are doing. So there is a security infrastructure on the top, and here the vehicles actually, whenever they want to drive, they need to interact with the CA to obtain pseudonyms if they don't have. So this communication could be through the RSU or the cellular networks, and the vehicles actually interact with the CA and they obtain their credentials. So when they want to communicate with each other, each vehicle actually sign the message and attach the currently valid pseudonym and append it to the message and disseminate the message and broadcast the message. So the other recipient actually would receive the message, first verify the signature, and then validate the message. So what we are going to focus is actually on this part, on the security infrastructure. And we take actually all the efforts in the standardization bodies and harmonization, like the one in Car-to-Car Communication Consortium, and we try to make it more practical, scalable, and more efficient. So I would say it's about 3 points: security, privacy, and efficiency. And I mainly actually focus on the privacy because there is no time to also explain the rest. But when it comes to privacy, so far in most of the proposals, it is assumed that these security infrastructures are fully trustworthy. So this means that they can actually link the users and they can track the users. So we try to actually assume a stronger adversarial model. So we try to assume that they are not really fully trustworthy, so they are honest but curious. So they comply with the system security policies and regulations, but they try to infer as much as information they can in order to track users. So we designed the system in this way. So let's focus on this part and let's see how does it look like. So this is the overview of vehicular public infrastructure. And as you can see here, we have several vehicles actually, and each is labeled with the domain it's affiliated to. So we can think of a domain, for example, Stockholm City or Göteborg, for example. And each domain is regulated by the transport agency, for example, that regulates the traffic, and all the vehicles actually are registered with that entity. And of course, we have some commercial service providers that provide services. So in this case, they provide pseudonyms to the vehicles. And of course, something could go wrong if there's an accident or if there is a misbehavior, and there should be one authority to resolve the anonymous pseudonym back to the actual identity of the vehicle. And this could happen, for example, with if the police authority actually initiates a request to resolve a pseudonym back. So as we can see here, actually, we separated the role of the entities into 3 different parties. And we introduced also one directory in order to facilitate multi-domain operation. So let's zoom in here in these 2 domains and see how the actual protocol actually work. So the first step is to, thank you. So the first step is to interact with your transport agency that each vehicle is registered with. So when you interact with it, you receive an anonymous ticket. And using this ticket, you can present it to any pseudonym provider, the service providers, and you can request your required pseudonyms. So in this way, the transport agency doesn't know where you want to go, how long you want to drive, and it doesn't know what would be your corresponding pseudonymous certificates. On the other hand, the pseudonym provider also doesn't know who is your actual identity, and it cannot link the pseudonyms even they come from the same requesters. Exactly because we are talking about large-scale deployment, so we need, for example, to allow vehicles to cross from Malmö to Copenhagen. So as long as there is a trust established between the transport agency in Sweden and the one in Denmark, so they can cross to other domains. And so the benefit here is that they can operate there as if they are a native vehicle. So first, it interacts with its transport agency in Sweden, receives an anonymous ticket, and presents it to the transport agency in Denmark, and it can just operate there as a local vehicle. So actually, we have fully implemented our VPKI, and we extensively evaluated it. So we took actually two mobility traces, one from the city of Cologne, and one actually the mobility traces from the city of Luxembourg. And the result actually shows that dedicating modest virtual machines can actually serve a large area of vehicles with very low delay. Just to get used give you some idea about performance, here actually we see the end-to-end latency in order to obtain pseudonyms. The x-axis shows the number of pseudonyms in a request, and the y-axis shows the end-to-end delay in milliseconds. And for example, in order to obtain 100 pseudonyms, it takes around 500 milliseconds. Of course, it depends how you use these pseudonyms, depending what would be the lifetime of each pseudonym. But this actually confirms the scalability and the efficiency of our scheme. So this is my last slide, and so actually we have been involved in many different projects in the area of security and privacy for vehicular communication system. And one of the last one was Preserve. It actually we hosted last year here at KTH. And as a result of that project, actually, we have a static testbed with 20 onboard units, VSS boxes. And these actually onboard units, we can see here one of the boxes and with its antenna. And these actually boxes can generate CAM and DEN messages, and they can perform different cryptographic primitives, and they can sign and verify around 1,000 times per second. So we would be happy to, if someone wants to access these testbed, we can provide the interface to if someone wants to do some experiment.
Yes, please.
Thank you for it. Yeah, it's on. Thank you for an interesting presentation. A few questions that are related, I hope. First one is related to the comment earlier that it seems to me that people don't really care so much about privacy. I think we are tracked by our mobile phones, most places we go, and we give away all the kind of information on social media. So do we have any clue about what kind of aspects of privacy with regards to this coming technology of autonomous vehicle that people are really interested in? Or could we see a scenario where people just don't care about privacy at all?
So actually, this one actually, first of all, we need to comply with the standard. And this is actually what the standard says. And we have to protect, not only protect users from the other users, but also protect user privacy from the side of the infrastructure. So this is one point. But the other point is that it depends actually who is operating each entity and who is collecting the information. Of course, if you have a really global adversary that can collect all the information, so it can do whatever it wants. But here, actually, if I want, so your question is to give one example that privacy is not important, yeah?
Do we have any research trying to assess in a future scenario what kind of privacy issue people would be interested in a future like this with autonomous vehicle?
So it's actually mainly about tracking users and linking the users to their trips, for example. And actually, there are some research about how to infringe privacy. But I mean, what I know at least about protecting user privacy, it's mainly about what the standardization bodies are saying, that we need to protect it because of the legal aspect of that. But I mean, if I want to just give one example about, I mean, like for example, the service providers can actually, in order to monetize users, they can collect information and they can just offer customized services to users if I know you come back to me. So this is actually what we want to prevent from that.
So your application applies to a situation where you need the information in the millisecond. What about if we have a complete system of mobile phones for individuals in the city, and then you for security reasons you give them pseudonyms, and in this way you can access information which can be used for traffic planning and other purposes. Would that be possible with your system?
So yeah, so actually, one of my colleagues that was Hong Yoo Jin that actually presented also in the poster session. So actually, there actually we also use, it's not only dedicated for the vehicles, but also the smartphones can also be part of the system. And of course, I mean, if you are asking if we increase the number of, let's say, requesters, if it can scale up, yeah, so we dedicated, I mean, I don't have this exact specification, but we only dedicate one very modest virtual machines, and it could actually serve, let's say, more than 100,000 requesters very smoothly. But I mean, I can just provide you with more details, I mean, if you are interested.
Yeah, very exciting work and also extremely important. I guess my question is more related on the privacy side. The notion of replacing the pseudonyms, I think, is an interesting idea. How would that practically preserve privacy in an era when all the cars are equipped with cameras? It seems like there are other data sets that might be very easy to correlate, to recover what those pseudonyms were after the fact.
So actually, that's a really good question. So the idea just using pseudonyms doesn't protect users' privacy to the full extent. So, well, actually, vehicles, actually, the mobility pattern actually is sort of constrained by the road. And what is difficult, actually, to achieve is to enhance user privacy by knowing the road structure and the mobility pattern. Just using the pseudonyms actually doesn't protect the user privacy. So there are some works. I'm not really aware of those, I mean, because it's sort of orthogonal to what I'm doing, but that's a valid question.